afternoon. My part before our keynote speakers will speak to us this afternoon is to have the welcome remarks. Thank you. I know how busy you are, okay, but thank you so much for your time, sparing time to come here. Okay, so I would like to share some quotes here as a welcome. The price of success is hard work, dedication to the job at hand, and the determination that whether we win or lose, we have applied the best of ourselves to the task at hand.
Sunrise to sunrise, I will see your face, drawn by the Spirit to the promise of your grace. My heart is found in you, a hope that will abide. Here in your presence, forever satisfied. Take me deeper, deeper than I've never been before. I just want to love you more and more. How I long to be deeper in love. How I long to be deeper in love. Let's pray.
This afternoon seminar, or this event, which is entitled Navigating the Autism Journey. So I think our event, okay, for today or this afternoon, it will surely give us a lot of learning about everything we need to learn about our chosen calling as teachers. Sometimes in our classes, we deal with students who will have special needs. So please sit down, relax, okay, and enjoy the rest of this afternoon's program. And it is my hope that you will find this program, as we go out from that door, going back to our different houses, that it is like fruitful and engaging. And I would like to share with this one, I would like to use the word I am. It is all about the autistic pride. He says here, I am genuinely proud of being different now. It definitely was not always that way. For most of my life, I fought so hard to try to fit in, to be normal, to be accepted. Nothing about autism is more harmful than being treated like you're a lesser person because of it. Being treated like you're broken and inadequate, especially by those you love, harms autistic way more than any symptom ever could. It says here, we're awesome. Okay, from the word autism, autistic. We are awesome just the way we are. So our keynote speaker number 1, Ms. Allen, will talk about this afternoon the history of autism spectrum disorder, which is ASD. Let's give her the time for this afternoon session.
Thank you, Ms. Raquel. So we have handouts there, so you can distribute, please. And if you don't have pens, you may get from here. If you don't have a pen, okay, so let us start navigating the autism journey. So before I will start my presentation, let's watch first a short video about what is autism.
According to the Centers for Disease Control, autism affects an estimated 1 in 54 children in the United States. You've probably heard a lot of thoughts and ideas about autism, but here's an overview of what we know. Autism, autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects a person's social and communication abilities. Persons with ASD also have areas of strong interest and sometimes have repetitive behavior and sensory sensitivities. Autism is sometimes associated with strengths in the areas of visual memory, music, art, math, and science.
So, who among you have encountered any student or any child with autism? Have you encountered one? Yeah, me also in my class. It's like every year I have one autistic child in my class. So, we're going to talk about what is autism. So, in your handout, the first one, the QR code, the first one the green one, that's the one I presented to you. So for the second and third QR code, you may scan it on your own and then you can watch more about autism. So in here it says, what is autism? So the word there in the blank is, autism is a neuro and developmental disorder that affects how people interact with others, especially in communication, in learning, and when they behave. Although autism can be diagnosed at any age, it is described as developmental disorder because symptoms generally appear in the first 2 years of their life. Autism is characterized by some degree of difficulty with social interaction and communication. Other characteristics are atypical patterns of activities and behaviors such as difficulty with transition from one activity to another, a focus on details and unusual reactions to sensation. So for example, my student before, if you will tell direction, one direction or two directions, he will forget the first one or the second one. So you have to repeat it and repeat it, or you have to be there for him to assist him. So if you tell the direction, you have to do it over and over before he will get it. So here it says there is no known cause of autism. So scientifically speaking, there's no known cause of autism until now. So even if they say, oh, it's the environment that affects these children with autism, but then scientifically speaking, there's no cause. They do not know even now. So let's go to the history of autism. So the root term for autism is derived from a Greek word autos, or meaning self. Meaning is about yourself. Okay. In 1799, Dr. Jean-Marc Gaspard Ettard worked with the feral boy Victor of Avery. So this described him as a wild boy because he doesn't know how to, he doesn't have any routine. He will play whatever he likes. He will do whatever he likes. That's why they say he is like a wild boy. So there's symptoms here. It says he did not understand the language, but improved his fine motor skill and communication. So when he adopted this boy, he taught him a lot of things, self-help. But then after some time, he only improved in some of his fine motor skill, but still he struggled in understanding the language. In 1911, as Swiss psychiatric first coined the term autism. He is Dr. Paul Eugene Bleuler. And in 1946, an Australian psychiatrist published a paper describing 11 children who displayed a strong desire of being alone, had a resistance to change, or a need of sameness. And in 1943, an Australian psychiatrist described similar characteristics on a group of children which he was treating. So these two, Dr. Leon Kanner and Dr. Hans Asperger, they contributed a lot in the autism discovery. So, in 1981, Dr. Lorna Wing was eventually accepted as Asperger's syndrome was associated with autism. So, she pioneered in child development disorders and advanced the perception of autism worldwide. So, because of Dr. Lorna Wing, autism was known worldwide, and sometimes they term it as Asperger's syndrome. So that's the simple history of autism. So let's go now to the myth and facts about autism. So there are statements there. So I would like everyone to choose whether the statement is a myth or is it a fact. So can you answer first? Or maybe I'll give you 30 seconds or 1 minute. You just check if it is a myth or a fact. Okay, done? Everybody's finished? Okay, so let's start with number 1. It states here, everyone with autism is either non-verbal or a savant or talent person. Is it a myth or a fact? What do you think? A fact? Okay. The answer is it's a myth. Yes, it is true that 10% of autistic people have skills such as math or drawing that are extraordinary ability, but this is really a small proportion of the full numbers of individuals diagnosed with autism. Okay, number 2. So that's the myth and the fact about autism. Now, we will look through the famous people with autism. I have here pictures. Okay, here we have pictures here, and we have another picture here. I'll be grouping it into two. You're just going to check or X. If you know they have ASD, you check. If you know they don't have ASD, you X. Okay? Okay, so let's check your answers. So these are the famous people with autism. Okay, ready? So they are Bill Gates, Michelangelo, Elon Musk, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Barbara McClintock. So they have autism. How about the other three? These three have ADHD. Yeah. So although these famous people with ASD or ADHD, even if they have this condition, we can learn from them that they can still survive and they can still be successful in life. So these are the famous people with autism and with ADHD. So anong common sa kanila? Diba, they are all successful in life. So just like us, kahit may condition sila ganito, they can still be successful in life. So how much more sa atin na nasa general community? So it's like a lesson for us also na, they have this condition, so of course, we can be also successful in life. So with that, we will have another activity. So we have here an acronym activity. So with all the yung mga na-learn nyo as of now, may I ask again, you will be grouped into two. We will make an acronym for autism. First group, active, unique, talented, intelligent, smart, mysterious. Wow. Which is true. Next, gather group, act with understanding, true, intellectual, and social matters. Wow. Nice one. Okay. Number 6. There's number 6 here. It says Seventh-day Adventist. If we do advocate autism, people with autism, even the Seventh-day Adventist advocates autism. So we Adventists advocates autistic awareness in connection with different organizations around the world. Just like this ones, I have the QR code here. If you have time, you may scan and then watch the things that they promote there for the program of Seventh-day Adventist. And to end my topic 1, I want to everybody or encourage everyone to advocate autism awareness. So how are we going to do this? So you get your phones, bring out your phone, and you are going to post a code regarding autism. Or you can take a picture of that and then post it in your wall with our hashtag Navigating the Autism Journey 2023 and hashtag See Beyond the Spectrum. So, that's the end of topic 1. That's the history of.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anna, for that insights about ASD. Our speaker number 2 will talk about this afternoon about understanding and managing children with autism spectrum disorder. And let's give our undivided attention to Ms. Glazy Rose C. Lemon. Let's clap our hands.
So after learning the history of autism, so we will move through about the signs and symptoms of autism. I think this is a very important one. So what are those signs and symptoms of autism and how are we going to manage and what are the diagnostic and treatment if a child or adult have these signs and symptoms of autism? So what are these signs? And now we learned about the history. So ASD stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder, yeah. And it is a developmental disability caused by differences in the brain. It is not like a common cold or flu that you can have a test or a flu shot or you have a medical exam to know the symptoms and the signs of autism. And these individuals with ASD, shortened for autism spectrum disorder, they have difficulties in communication and social interaction. So that is the major signs of autism. And in the USA, the United States of America, 2.23% they have this autistic, and in Asia it's 0.36% only. So typically, this brain disorder at the age of 2 to 3 years old, it becomes to develop and see the signs of autism. And this is the typical brain, the blue, the ABC, and the other one is the autistic brain. So there are, the dotted line, the D, the F, and the E. So that's the autistic brain. But these three regions are connected more weakly in ASD, these red lines. However, the network also includes connections with other brain regions, the DEF. And although it has been a long known that autism is primarily a neurological disorder, it's about the brain. And the exact nature of this brain disorder is autism is not well understood. And this study is this is the MRI of the brain of a child, and this study is in San Diego State University. So what are the signs and symptoms? Letter A, it's about the social communication and interaction skills. So that's the main. So they avoid eye contact. They avoid eye contact to the people. If they are talking, they don't move around, look around the ceiling, look around left and right. So that's the signs, one of the signs of autism. And at the age of 9 months, they don't react. They don't smile. They were like cold names, so they don't react, and they don't show facial countenances like happy, sad, or angry, and surprised by the the 9 months of age. And they don't that doesn't play simple interactive plays like about cake by 1 year old. And they use as few or no gesticulations by 12 months of age. For example, they does not wave hands, say goodbye, or say like hi, hello. And they don't share interests with others by 15 months old. And they don't notice other kids, and they don't join them by the age of 36 months. And this one, by the age of 5 years old, they does not sing, they does not dance or operate by the age of 5 years old. So specifically by the age of 2 or 3 years old, they will show signs of autism if the child has these signs. And next is restricted or repetitive behaviors or interests. So what are those repetitive behaviors? Like they lining up the toys every day, they will do like that, lining up the toys, and then if that toy like goes to the other line, what will happen? They will be very upset and angry if the order was changed. So that's the signs of autism. And they reprises the words or phrases over and over. Just like they call it, there's another term for repetition of words. It's called echolalia, like the last word. Did you pee? And they will also follow P or what is your name? They will follow the last word. So we call it, the other term is echolalia, and there's another treatment for that. And they also play with toys the exact way every time. And they are also concentrated on parts of the objects, for example, the wheels, and the minor, like get upset by minor changes of routine. Like they will go this way, and then suddenly it changed. So you know what will happen? They will get angry or upset. And they flap heads, rocks body, or speed self in hoops, and they have unusual responses to the way things sound, smell, taste, look, or feel. And so, what is the diagnosis for this signs of autism? So since there is no physical symptoms of autism, we cannot use medical tests, right? We cannot use blood tests. So what is the diagnosis of autism? So to diagnose a person with autism in addition, it varies widely. And it depends on the severity of the person who has autism. So although autism is hard to diagnose before 24 months of age, and between 12 months and 18 months old, so there is we call it a diagnostic and statistical manual. This one, only the psychologist, developmental pediatrician, or the specialized physician will use this to diagnose a child or an adult who has this autism. So this manual, this is a guide for a physician who has this autism spectrum disorder, and there is a specific criterion to use this one. Not just a teacher, not just a special education teacher. It should be a specialist who can diagnose those kids who has autism. So we cannot tell the child, you are autistic, you are angry. We cannot label that child, and when we we just hear them crying very loud, maybe something from them. We cannot help, we can observe them, and maybe there is something concern to your child or to our students, but we cannot label them like, you are like this child, you are special. So we don't have the right to label the children with misbehaving or something like we know. So we don't have the right. Only those people who has the license of labeling or telling them that this child has something wrong. And here is the severity level of autism spectrum disorder. So this one, if the child or an adult have a severe problem, they use the DSM-5 to diagnose a child. So it depends on the severity. So this is a social communication. Like the level 3, it's severe already, deficient in verbal and non-verbal. And level 2, they mark deficient in verbal, but it's not severe. And level 1, it's without supports in place and deficient in social communication. And here is the repetitive behavior. So level 3, it's extreme difficulty coping with change. So if they change their routine, they will burst out. And it's hard for them to cope. That's level 3. And level 2, all of these, they require substantial support. And level 2, it's inflexibility of behavior, difficulty coping with change. So this one is not extreme. And level 1 is problems, organization and planning, hampered independence. So after learning this one, so why autism is not considered a form of mental retardation, so many autistic children appear to be function at that low level. But then, it says in Psalms 139 verse 14, so I will praise you for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. So if ever you have a child that is autistic, what are we like? If you are a parent, are you going to like, oh, you have question mark, right? You will question why I have this son or a daughter who has this problem. So so I want to also share this verse in Jeremiah 1 verse 5. So I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. So as teachers and parents, so what is our role? If we ever encounter autistic children or adults in our classroom or anywhere here around in our community. So what is the treatment of autism? There are many treatments for autism, but there's no cure for that. There's no cure. There is no single treatment that can alleviate the core symptoms of autism either. But there is one thing that I learned from this treatment. It's the support of the parents, supports of the teachers, supports of the community that will help autistic children or an adult. So as early as possible, we have to intervene the children if they are diagnosed or like if you observe them like in the classroom, we have to intervene early as possible if they are in kindergarten. If they go to K2, K3, and then primary, we have to like the early intervention. And a teacher is a big help for the early intervention. And next is, so what are those early interventions? So first, family training. Family training, it starts at home. So we have to train them at home. The routine begins at home, the family training. And speech therapy or hearing impairment services and physical therapy and nutrition services. So early interventions are very important for a child who has autism. So this is the key so that they were no longer on the autism spectrum if they get older. So if a a child, at least 2 or 3, so that they are having these symptoms, early intervention is very important. And the most common method, this one is the Autism Partnership Method. Many schools in Hong Kong, they use this one, the APM curriculum. And they use the applied behavioral analysis, just like the occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical and pharmacological therapy. These treatments are those children who has the ASD to maximize their full independence and quality of life. So yeah, I think we don't have this one in here. The applied behavioral analysis. Yeah, this one is the ABA. They use this one as preschool as early as possible. And what are the management tips? So avoid sensory overload. So when we have these children and we have a classroom who have a lot of decoration, especially in our kindergarten classroom. Sometimes the brain is like, oh, so many things around, so many colorful. So avoid that overload decorations in the classroom. Yeah. And then use visuals. Just like we are doing in K1, we have the happy face, line up, toilet, sit properly. And this also is effective on the normal student. But then sometimes we are not using this because most of them are like normal. So this one is effective to autistic children. And number 3, be predictable. If you ever been like a substitute teacher and you don't know that there is an ASD in your classroom, so what will happen? So we have to be unpredictable to the changes, and it's a great teaching moment to model handle changes appropriately. And next is keep language concrete or be specific. Just like, for example, you will tell your student break a leg. Oh, what is their understanding there if you have an autistic student? Oh, break a leg, what's that? Also, you have to be specific. When you will say words, they will not understand that break a leg. So, they have many individuals with autism have trouble understanding figurative language, and it's hard for them to interpret. And next is directly teach social skills. Yeah, because they have this problem, socialization. So we can also teach this one to our students or to our kids. And we can model them how to be socialized. And next is treat students as individuals. So for me, I treat them like, if you are smart, oh, you have to be also smart in my class. So treat them as individuals. They are all different, right? Some are very low IQ, some are very high. So we treat them as individuals because they are important, yeah, to our community, and they are created by God wonderfully and differently from one another. And how to become an effective teacher. So what is this fallacy? This one is misleading. The meaning of fallacy. So hopefully you would observe the teacher making any mistakes while teaching, but if ever, so we can redo it. We can teach it one more time if we ever make a mistake. But if we do observe mistakes, we hope that we promptly owns up the error and apologize to our students. Do we set high expectations to our students? So there's a study that a regular education teacher, a group of children who historically performed below grade level, and the teacher of these students were high achievers. Because of this teacher, she has the high expectations, so the students, like, they keep going because their teachers have this high expectations. It's like, oh, you have to perform very well. I saw this just like dancing. All the students are performing very well because the teacher also have this expectation, right? So before I end, So remember this, there's no cure for autism spectrum disorder. And there's no one-size-fits-all treatment. If this treatment is not fit for this child, try another one. So the goal of treatment is to maximize your child's ability to function by reducing autism spectrum disorder. And yeah, we need support. These children need support and love if ever we have this kind of student in our classroom, or if ever we are have the opportunity to if you become a parent, we don't know, right? And parenting a child with autism can be a very challenging one and rewarding experience. So by creating a safe and predictable environment and improving communications and encouraging and embracing your child's strengths, we can help the child thrive and reach his full potential. So we have this autism toys that we can also use in our classroom. I don't know that this one is we call it tactile toys. Yeah, here. When I was searching, so I know already that this is good for autistic children. So God only gives special needs children to special people. Yeah. So that means you're very special in God's eye if we have these children with special needs. So next is thank you. And here we will go with the true or false. You will just answer these questions if it's true or false. So early interventions occur at or before preschool age, as early as birth or 6 months of age. Is it true or false? It's a false. Because early at 2 or 3 years old, you will see the signs and symptoms. Okay, so we have the case study. You can group yourself and you can discuss it by group.
So let's have issue number 1. Who wants to share? Difficulty to adjust in a change of routine. So what are the things that you have discussed? Anyway, thank you so much, keynote speakers, for our workshop seminar this afternoon. But let's have first the Q&A portion. May mga tanong ba kayo dyan? Baka wala na. Okay, our speakers are ready to answer if you have some questions about our topic this afternoon.